Emily Carter watched her husband, Mark, step away with a smile, promising popcorn for their son, while she settled on the bench with the stroller. It was a sunny afternoon, the kind that made everything feel safe, until she noticed he hadn't come back. She checked her phone. 7 minutes had passed. Mark was fast, always efficient. Something was off. She rose, scanning the crowd, eyes locking on the small red and white popcorn cart near the playground. No sign of him. Approaching the vendor, she tried to stay calm. Did a man just buy popcorn here? Tall, dark jacket, carrying a baby. The vendor tilted his head, confused. I haven't served anyone fitting that description, he said. You sure he came this way? The popcorn stand was the only one in that direction. I saw him walk here, she insisted. He waved at me. But the vendor only offered an apologetic shrug. Lady, maybe he changed his mind. There's another cart by the lake. Emily turned to retrace Mark's steps and froze. A paper bag sat neatly on the bench beside the stroller, still steaming. Her heart quickened. She hadn't seen anyone return. She lifted the bag. It was hot, freshly buttered, exactly how Mark liked it. But he was nowhere. A strange tension rippled through the air, like a film stretched too tight. She called his phone, voicemail, then again. Nothing. She began asking strangers nearby, showing his photo. One woman claimed she saw him 10 minutes ago. Another swore she didn't. Emily rushed to a nearby patrol officer, hoping for help. He listened, but his reaction was unnerving. People step away all the time, he said, voice flat. Maybe he needed space. He wouldn't leave us, she snapped. Our son is here. The officer gave a weak smile, mumbled into his radio and walked away. Moments later, 2 security men approached. No badges, no names. They asked procedural questions, time, direction, description, but something felt rehearsed. One of them, taller and oddly calm, picked up the popcorn bag and sniffed it. Strange, he murmured. It's still warm. Emily leaned in. Do you have surveillance? He walked right past here. The other man's gaze narrowed. There are blind spots, especially near the benches. She felt her stomach sink. She showed them a photo she'd taken of Mark minutes earlier, smiling with the popcorn bag. But something was wrong. In the photo, the popcorn cart had a red awning. She looked up. It was blue. The trees in the background didn't match either. Worse, the photo's timestamp said 4:12 p.m., but her phone read 3:38 p.m. Before she could ask what was happening, both men were gone, vanished without a word. Emily turned in circles, the stroller beside her, heart racing. No one had seen them leave. Then, without warning, her phone buzzed with a new notification. Mark Carter signed in at the Meadow Lake Inn, 5:01 p.m. It was 3:39. Emily stared at the notification on her screen. Mark's name, signed at a hotel 500 kilometers away, scheduled an hour in the future. It wasn't just eerie, it was impossible. Her first thought was a glitch. Her second was far worse. She rushed into the park's visitor center and begged the clerk to call the Meadow Lake Inn. The woman hesitated, then dialed. A short pause. Yes, a Mark Carter checked in 10 minutes ago, she confirmed. Emily's breath caught. Can you describe him? The woman on the phone paused. Dark jacket, light eyes, wedding ring on the right hand. Emily hung up and checked her photo again. Mark's wedding ring had always been on the left. She zoomed in. The image showed it on the right. Her hands trembled. She hadn't flipped the photo. It was taken normally. So why did the reflection look reversed? Desperate for answers, she returned to the area where Mark vanished. The popcorn stand was gone. In its place stood a hot dog cart. She asked the new vendor if he'd seen a popcorn stand earlier. No popcorn here all day, miss, he replied, confused. She turned to ask a couple walking by. No one remembered seeing a popcorn cart. But then a boy tugged at his father's sleeve and pointed. There was a popcorn guy. I saw him give a bag to a tall man. Emily knelt. What did the tall man look like? The boy's eyes widened. He had no eyebrows. He whispered. Emily blinked. Are you sure? The boy nodded quickly. She followed her instincts and went to the park office to request surveillance footage. The clerk hesitated, then typed half-heartedly. We've had system errors all afternoon, he said. The cameras were down from noon to 4. Emily leaned in. Convenient, isn't it? The clerk didn't respond. His screen showed a flashing error code, E4-2, unauthorized loop. On her way out, she passed a tall man in a maintenance uniform, standing motionless near a fountain. He was staring straight ahead, eyes glassy. As she passed, he whispered, You shouldn't be looking. Emily froze. When she turned to confront him, he was gone. Shaken, she sat on a nearby bench to collect herself. The leaves rustled above, and a shadow crossed the ground. She looked up. Nothing. Her phone buzzed. Another alert from Meadow Lake Inn. Mark Carter had ordered room service. Grilled cheese, his favorite. Emily didn't sleep that night. She booked the first train to Meadow Lake, hoping, dreading what she might find. When she arrived, the receptionist at the inn smiled warmly and confirmed, Yes, Mark Carter checked out 2 hours ago. Emily's heart stopped. Checked out? She whispered. Left in a black sedan, alone, the woman added. Emily demanded the check-in form. There it was, Mark's handwriting. But something was off. The signature looked practiced, identical to every document he'd ever signed. Too identical. She turned the page sideways. The M had a flourish he never used. E. Emily called Mark's workplace, a logistics consultancy in Midtown, asking for human resources. After a pause, the woman on the line responded coldly, We have no employee by that name. Emily frowned. He's worked there for 3 years. The woman paused again. I'm sorry, that name is not in our system. She rushed to the office in person. The receptionist greeted her with confusion. Are you sure you're at the right company? Emily insisted, showed photos. After some murmuring, a manager appeared and pulled her aside. Look, he said quietly. I've seen him, but he never had a title, no desk. He came and went like a shadow. Inside her bag, Emily found Mark's old business card. But now it read only, Ems Carter, special access, no number, no email. The company logo was different, darker, sleeker. It had changed subtly. She hadn't noticed it before. She compared it to a card she'd scanned last year. 2 different symbols. Curious, she visited their bank. The teller was kind, until he looked up the account. This account is restricted, he said carefully. I can't access it without dual biometric clearance. Emily blinked. It's a joint account. I've accessed it dozens of times. The teller shifted. I'm sorry, Ms. Carter. The system shows it's classified. Back home, she tried his laptop. Password denied. Tried again. Then her own name. Access granted. But instead of the usual home screen, a terminal opened, showing a single blinking command. Are you ready to remember? She stared at the cursor, not touching the keyboard. The screen turned black. Seconds later, it rebooted, all files gone, desktop empty. But in the corner, one folder remained, named Emily. Inside it, only one file. A photo of her, taken from across the street, time-stamped just 2 hours ago. Her heart raced. She hadn't left the house all day. Emily stared at the photo, unable to breathe. She was there, frozen mid-step outside her apartment, taken from across the street, time-stamped at 2:47 p.m., but she hadn't left home all day. Behind her, in the blurred background, a black sedan, the same type the hotel clerk said Mark left in. Her skin crawled. Someone had been watching her, just like they were watching him. Digging into the image's metadata, she found embedded coordinates, an address in the Upper East Side. Curiosity fought terror. She hailed a cab and watched the city blur by. The location was real, a weathered brick building with no name, wedged between a diner and a boarded-up bookstore. Every window was dark, no movement, no sound. The hallway inside reeked of mildew and silence. Apartment numbers marched along the walls, 2A, 2B, 2C. But at the end, one door had no number, no peephole, just a keyhole. She pulled out the strange key Mark had hidden, the one with the domino tile marked 4-2. It slid in smoothly, a soft click. The door creaked open. The apartment was lifeless and dim. Blackout curtains, cold air, nothing but a table, a chair, and a wall covered in photos. Emily's heart dropped. Every photo was of her, some recent, others from years past. Some she didn't even remember posing for. The angles were invasive, taken from corners, windows, shadows. The photos were labeled with strange alphanumeric codes. Beneath them, a folder titled Observation Subject E. Carter. Inside, notes, graphs, timestamps. One page listed her grocery trips. Another tracked emotional reactions during arguments with Mark. She wasn't just being followed, she was being measured. In a drawer, she found a sealed envelope marked in her own handwriting. If you're reading this, they've erased you before. Inside, a page torn from a notebook. Trust nothing from Penumbra, not even him. Her handwriting, but her memory couldn't explain it. Who was him? A panel on the wall hummed and slid open. A silver case emerged, its surface engraved with the same 4-2 domino. A biometric scanner glowed. She touched it instinctively. Access granted. Emily Carter. The box unlocked, revealing a single black flash drive. She grabbed it and ran. As she reached the sidewalk, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You were never meant to find this place. Then another. Return the drive, or you'll never see him again. She froze. Somewhere behind her, a car engine started. Emily didn't go home. Her instincts screamed that eyes were still on her. Instead, she ducked into a forgotten cafe on the edge of Midtown, one with no cameras, no digital receipts. She ordered black coffee and sat in the darkest corner, laptop open. The flash drive was heavier now, as if it carried more than data. She slid it in and held her breath. The screen flickered, then revealed a single audio file. She clicked. Mark's voice, unmistakable. If you're hearing this, it means I've failed. Penumbra is real. I tried to leave them, but once you're in, you never truly leave. His tone was calm, too calm. Emily gripped the table, her pulse rising. They experiment on memory, identity. They call it behavioral drift. Mark continued. I joined thinking I could expose them. Instead, they rewrote me, over and over. You weren't supposed to be involved, Emily. But you were always curious. His voice broke slightly. I'm sorry. The next folder held documents, internal memos, anonymized subject reports, project logs, each stamped with the insignia of Penumbra Institute. Program names leapt from the screen. Protocol reset, mirror phase, civic calibration. Central Park appeared again and again, labeled Zone Alpha. It wasn't just a location, it was a live lab. Emily opened a spreadsheet titled Variable Tracking, Tier 1 Subjects. Her breath stopped. Subject 0039M, Mark Carter. Status active. Primary function stabilization vector. Below that, subject 0042E, Emily Carter. Deviation risk, high. Observed since 2015. Emotional anchor link established. Emily blinked. They claimed to be watching her even before she met Mark. Her name appeared in dozens of tests. One report detailed her reaction time when exposed to staged arguments. Another analyzed her vocal pitch during conflict. These weren't surveillance notes. They were psychological diagnostics. And beneath them, one chilling phrase. Subject exhibits recursive memory inconsistencies. Calibration advised. The last file was a video, a small sterile room. Mark sat motionless, eyes vacant. A voice from off-screen asked, "What is Emily Carter's designation?" Mark blinked slowly. "Anchor variable." "And your task?" Another pause. "Maintain her stability until activation sequence is confirmed." Emily shut the laptop. Her hand was shaking. Her phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. Message. "Final warning. He's not who you remember." Attached. A photo. Mark walking through Central Park. Alive. Alone. The timestamp was current. Location. South End. Zone. Alpha. She stared at the screen. He was back where it all began, or maybe he had never truly left. Emily made her way back to Central Park before sunrise. The air was sharp, the city still half asleep. She followed the location tag from the photo, tracing the South End paths. No Mark. Only the distant echo of her own footsteps and the rustling of early wind through skeletal trees. She was about to give up when she noticed someone leaning against a bench, tall, trench coat, face hidden by a baseball cap. As she approached, he turned. Not Mark, but familiar. "You're Emily Carter," he said. "I worked with your husband before he became a variable." The man introduced himself as Cole. He claimed he had escaped Penumbra a year ago. "Mark wasn't just a target," he said. "He volunteered, thought he could dismantle the system from the inside." Emily asked if he believed Mark had been reprogrammed. Cole hesitated. Not fully, yet. They walked deeper into the park as he explained. Penumbra used anchors to ground unstable variables. Partners, siblings, even children. Emotional bonds made subjects more predictable. But if the anchor became unstable, the system collapsed. "You're the wild card," Cole said. "They didn't expect you to push back." He handed her a slim file. Inside, surveillance images of her and Mark from years prior, before they officially met. "They introduced you," Cole said. "Orchestrated the meeting. Your apartment lease, subsidized. Your job offer, influenced. They placed you perfectly." Emily's world cracked open. Cole led her to a shaded area near an old maintenance shed. "They'll try to reset him soon," he warned. "Wipe what's left of his real identity. You need to reach him before that." Emily asked how. Cole pulled out a small device, a signal disruptor. "This can break their neural hold for 90 seconds. What happens after that?" she asked. "Either he remembers you," Cole said, "or he forgets everything." Emily stared at the device, its blinking light a pulse in her palm. "Where is he now?" Cole pointed across the lake. "They're moving him into an underground sector. In 90 minutes. She looked toward the tree line, her thoughts racing. If everything Cole said was true, Mark's love for her had been engineered. But something real had survived. Maybe. She turned to ask Cole one last question, but he was gone. The bench was empty. The file, gone from her hand. Only the device remained. Emily crossed the lake, the device clutched tightly in her coat pocket. The park had changed. Trees stood in places they hadn't before. Paths curved unnaturally. Benches faced walls of ivy that hadn't existed the previous day. She felt like she was walking through a memory that was still being edited. Her map app showed nothing unusual, but the terrain argued otherwise. Stone bridges appeared where dirt trails once led. Familiar statues were missing. In their place, smooth concrete pedestals with no plaques. Every step made her question her own recall. Was this how they reset people? By distorting the environment until you no longer trusted your senses? Emily spotted two men in maintenance uniforms walking with precise synchrony near the ramble. Their faces were blank, gait identical. As she passed them, one turned sharply and murmured, "Carter variable in motion." She froze, but neither man looked back. They just continued walking, vanishing into the foliage like ghosts. The disruptor device pulsed faintly, guiding her like a compass. Each flicker pulled her deeper into a section of the park she didn't remember existing. The air felt heavier, like she was descending without stepping down. Finally, she reached a cluster of massive boulders, unnaturally arranged in a semicircle, too precise to be natural. Between two stones, a narrow gap glowed faintly. She squeezed through, emerging into a concealed service tunnel lined with cables and humming lights. It wasn't part of the city's grid, at least not publicly. The corridor sloped downward, leading her beneath the park, beneath the city, into something older and colder. Doors lined the walls, each marked with cryptic combinations, E42, Z3R1. One door was slightly ajar. She peeked inside. An empty room with only a chair, restraints dangling from its arms. The walls pulsed with a faint pink light. She moved on quickly, pulse racing. At the end of the hallway, a steel door slid open automatically as she approached. Inside, a chamber filled with monitors, cables, and, sitting in the center, Mark. Eyes closed, wires trailing from his temples, breathing shallow. He looked peaceful. Too peaceful. Like something had already been taken from him. Emily stepped inside. The door hissed shut behind her. The disruptor in her hand vibrated once, then beeped. 90 seconds. That's all she had. She pressed the button. The lights flickered. Mark stirred. His eyes opened, empty at first, then locked onto hers. "Emily?" he said. Then his expression changed. Mark's eyes flickered. Recognition, confusion, then panic. "Emily?" he repeated, voice hoarse. The wires sparked behind him. She ran forward, grabbing his face. "It's me, you're in a reset loop." He flinched, pulling back. "No, you're not supposed to be here. If you're here, it's already too late." She held up the disruptor. "I shut it down. We have 90 seconds, maybe less." Mark's eyes darted around the room. "They told me you'd try this, said you'd lie, that you were never real." Emily's heart cracked. "Then why do you know my name?" He didn't answer, but tears welled up. Emily showed him the photo from the apartment, her, Mark, and the shadowy figure in the background. "They've been watching us for years. Even before we met, you left this for me. You tried to warn me." Mark stared at the photo, then whispered, "I don't remember taking this, but I remember loving you." The room shuddered. An alarm blared. Voices echoed through the intercom. "Unauthorized neural disruption in Chamber Z." Mark gripped her wrist. "They'll kill us both to preserve the cycle." Emily pulled him from the chair. "Then we break it." He hesitated, then nodded. Together they ran into the hallway. Red lights pulsed above. The tunnel began to shift. Walls contracted, floor panels rotated, creating dead ends where there had been paths. "It's rearranging," Mark gasped. "It's testing us just like the simulations." Emily shouted, "Then let's fail differently." She threw her phone at a glass panel. Crack. Sparks. A door opened. They sprinted through, reaching an elevator. As it rose, Mark collapsed. "They injected me with something," he said, barely conscious. Emily knelt beside him, cradling his head. "Stay with me." He smiled faintly. "If I forget again, find me. Make me remember." The doors opened. Central Park, morning light. Joggers passed by, oblivious. Birds chirped. Everything normal. Too normal. Emily turned to Mark, but he was gone. Not a trace. Just the domino key in her hand. 4-2, bright red. Her phone buzzed. One message. No sender. It read, "Reset completed. Anchor compromised. New sequence initiated." She looked around. Same paths, same people. But something was different. A man approached with a stroller, smiling. Familiar. He spoke. "Emily, right? Sorry to bother you. Do we know each other?" And her mouth opened, but no words came.